A man in a fake police vest slammed my autistic 9-year-old face first into the ground, on our own porch. My son couldn't even scream, just gasped for air while the guy shouted, "Stop resisting!" like this was some kind of war zone. Then my Marine brother's truck pulled up. But what happened next will shock even those who thought they'd seen everything. But first, let's go back to the beginning. The scream tore through the morning like glass shattering on tile, high-pitched, primal, the kind of sound that only ever comes from a child in pure, unfiltered terror. My heart stopped. My body moved before my brain caught up. I flew down the steps, barefoot on concrete, lungs burning with panic. Noah was face down in the mulch, crayons scattered like debris from a crash site. The man had one knee in his back and an elbow jammed into his neck. A grotesque parody of law enforcement restraint. Noah wasn't moving, just whimpering, eyes wide and locked on nothing, lips trembling like he was stuck in some hell only he could see. That stillness terrified me more than the screams. "What the hell are you doing?" I shrieked. The man glanced up, eyes cold, breath steady. "He was non-compliant. He needed to be detained." "He's a child! He's my child!" He didn't flinch. "HOA policy. Page 14, section. There is no policy for assaulting a disabled kid." But it didn't matter. He wasn't hearing me. He was on some power trip, lost in the fantasy of being judge, jury, and executioner. His fingers clamped around Noah's wrists like shackles, forcing him into positions that no 9-year-old, let alone one with sensory issues and hypermobility, could tolerate. Noah's breath came in staccato bursts. He was panicking now. I knew that breathing. It was the beginning of a shutdown, or worse, a meltdown that could end in hospitalization. "I'm calling the police," I said, phone already shaking in my hand. "Good," he snapped. "They'll tell you I'm right." I saw it clearly then. Not just his cruelty, but the delusion behind it. This wasn't enforcement. This was domination. He wasn't protecting the neighborhood. He was cleansing it of anything inconvenient, anything different. I knelt by Noah, trying to reach his face. "Sweetheart, I'm here. You're safe. I promise." But he couldn't hear me. Not over the pounding in his ears. Not over the crushing weight on his back. That's when the rumble came. A low, growling engine rounding the corner like a warning drum. The man didn't turn. Didn't even twitch. But I did. Because I knew that sound like I knew my own heartbeat. My brother Jack had just come home. Jack didn't just move. He struck. The way only men who've seen war can strike. No hesitation, no second guessing. Just calculated force and surgical control. The second his boots hit the lawn, the air changed. The fake cop sensed it too. You could see it in the flicker of his eyes, the faint recoil in his stance. But it was too late. He'd already crossed a line he couldn't uncross. Jack's voice sliced through the chaos like a knife. "Get your hands off the kid, now!" The man turned, still crouched over Noah, and for a breath of a second, he tried to hold his ground, pulled a tin badge from his belt and waved it like a shield. Plastic. Cheap. The kind you buy online for $15 and a lie. His mouth opened to spew some authority-drunk command, but Jack didn't let him finish. In one fluid motion, Jack locked onto the man's wrist, twisted it at an unnatural angle, and snapped it. Not a pop. A snap. The kind of sound that makes stomachs churn and nerves flinch. The man screamed, short and sharp, then crumpled like a sack of bones. His body hit the grass, his ego shattered beside it. Jack didn't blink. He planted a knee on the guy's spine, free hand pressing the back of his neck into the dirt, eyes sweeping the perimeter. Calm, cold, locked in. He was filming with his other hand. Every second, every breath, every pathetic groan. Noah had crawled into my lap by then, rocking, his fingers gripping my arm like it was a lifeline. I kept whispering, "You're okay. You're safe now," even though my heart was still galloping in my chest. Neighbors began to emerge, Phones already out. Some were whispering, others filming. Nobody moved to help the man. They all knew. We all knew. Because this wasn't his first time. Turns out the man was not with law enforcement. Not even close. He was Rick Walters, husband of Deborah Walters, the HOA president. The same woman who once suggested we build a privacy fence so Noah wouldn't disturb the aesthetic. Rick had spent months walking the neighborhood in his pretend uniform, issuing warnings that looked official but weren't. No court stamps, no citations filed with the city, just photocopied threats dressed up in fake authority. He targeted the vulnerable, single mothers, immigrant families, anyone with kids who looked or acted different. And Noah wasn't his first victim. 3 other families had stories. One had photos, and one had a son in a wheelchair who still cried when the doorbell rang. But Rick never expected resistance. He thought the neighborhood would stay quiet, obedient. That changed the moment Jack set foot on our lawn. Justice didn't come quietly. It landed with handcuffs and headlines. Rick was still clutching his wrist when the cruisers rolled in, lights pulsing across the neighborhood like a heartbeat of reckoning. The officers barely exchanged words before slapping cuffs on him, impersonating a peace officer, assault of a minor, child endangerment. He didn't resist, not because he understood the gravity of what he'd done, but because he finally realized he wasn't the one in control. The HOA president, Deborah Walters, showed up 10 minutes later in heels and panic. She tried to spin it, claimed Rick got overzealous, that he wasn't officially representing the board, that this was all just a misunderstanding. But Jack's video killed any hope of damage control. It was airtight. Every shove, every scream, every time Rick called himself enforcement. That footage didn't just go to the police. It went to everyone. Local reporters aired it that same night. Parents shared it across support groups. Veteran forums lit up with outrage. The algorithm took one look at Jack's raw, unfiltered upload. The shaky camera, the trembling voice of a child, the cold crack of a bone, and sent it into digital overdrive. 6 million views in 48 hours. Suddenly, our story wasn't just ours. It belonged to every family who'd ever been told their child was a problem. Every homeowner fined for non-compliance, without explanation. Every neighbor silenced by an HOA letterhead and a vague threat. The court process was brutal, but we were ready. Depositions exposed everything. Fraudulent fines, falsified board minutes, neighborhood intimidation tactics. One by one, other families came forward. A paper trail emerged, and with it, a pattern. It wasn't negligence. It was targeted abuse dressed in procedural language. The HOA collapsed under the weight of its own rot. The judge ordered full restitution. Deborah lost her house. Rick pled out and took a felony on his record. Noah's therapy was covered for the next 10 years. So was counseling for 3 other children. The board was disbanded. But the best part? The people took back control. The neighborhood held a vote and replaced the HOA with a real community council. No fake authority, no vendettas. Parents, veterans, and disability advocates now sit at the table. People who understand that safety isn't about fences and codes, but empathy and protection. Noah's crayons came back out last week. Same porch, same clouds. But now there are wings. Sharp, sweeping eagles circling high above. He says they're watching, guarding. And one? He swears it's Jack, always flying just ahead.